Hello. For those of you that don't know me, I am Natasha Bujihawan, and today is my birthday. I am 34 by the Gregorian years, and I wanted to share something with you as much from my heart as possible. I've been in a really very deep process the past couple of days, and you know, for quite a while, a couple of months. I wanted to share something that's I feel is really, really important in these times, and I hope that you can listen to this with an open heart. So last night and this morning I went to sleep and I woke up with this incredible sadness and grief. It's feelings of incredible sadness and grief, and I was very, very much blended with it, very much in these feelings and overwhelmed by these feelings. And it's taken me years and months to realize where this is coming from, but today, this morning, the penny just dropped and it became so clear, and it is of importance and significance for us all, because it comes from a very deep core wounding that I feel and my ancestors felt, and I feel that so many of us do today. So I'm going to rewind a little bit and start with the work that I've been doing over the past couple of years. So I'm a holistic therapist, and I work with several modalities. I've also been a community and youth worker for the past 10 years. I've been working in some of the most marginalized, poor, socially excluded communities across the Northwest. And through my own chronic health conditions, overcoming those, I have trained in various modalities to be able to support other people who are in the position that I was, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically. And so I've dedicated so much of my life already to being in service, and have seen and witnessed so much. And I always felt that I was carrying a lot of this grief and sadness, and it was from having witnessed and observed this stuff in the community, you know, for the past 10 years. And it's become very clear to me that actually it's so much bigger than that, that I'm being gifted with the opportunity to feel it and see it and be with it in the now, but it's triggered something very deep and very old, very ancestral. So for the past couple of years, I have been doing some work to really go into and understand and try as much as possible to transmute, to transform, to release ancestral trauma, and particularly the burdens that we take on when we experience trauma. And I wasn't really very connected to ceremony and religion and spirituality from my heart from being very young. It's something that I've come into over the past sort of 7 or 8 years as my own journey has unfolded, and I've reconnected and remembered who I am and what I'm here to do. So a couple of years ago, I realized that, you know, I really felt from my heart like I have this important role to play, to understand and in some way work with this ancestral trauma. And I, you know, began picking up tools. I began experimenting. I have some amazing teachers who have helped me, supported me in this journey, and I myself connecting inwards and also connecting to source, I've been able to receive a lot of the wisdom and guidance about our ancestors and the trauma and the burdens that they took on as part of their journey. So fast forward to today, it's all kind of come to a head. It's come to a point where it's really clear for me to see and understand what's happening. And I'm just going to give you a bit of the last 2 weeks build up. So or more than 2 weeks, about a month ago, I was undertaking the last part of my internal family systems training. Internal family systems is a psycho-spiritual type of therapy, talking therapy, where you go into the body, into the mind, into the spirit to connect with ourself, our parts of our ego, and ultimately connect to the exiled or the trauma, the exiled parts of us which carry those traumatic burdens, and we work to release those. And during that final bit of the training, I received some news that my uncle in Mauritius was very, very sick and in hospital. And immediately it triggered within me this same sadness and grief that I felt. And, you know, at times I feel like I'm feeling it from particular family members, but often it's just this overwhelming feeling of sadness and grief that I know is just coming from me tapping into the experience of my people. I'm from Mauritius. I wasn't born in Mauritius, but both my parents were. They both grew up there, and they left there when they were very young, 18 and 19, to make a life elsewhere, because life was really hard in Mauritius. And they come from an Indian ancestral background, and our ancestors left India around 300, 200 years ago, and they left. They were from a very poor place called Bihar in India, and they left to try and find a better life. They were taken on boats. They were invited by the British Empire at the time, the British government, and they were invited to go to this beautiful island where they would enjoy a balanced working life, and you know, and they were promised all sorts of things which didn't manifest for a really long time. They had to work really, really hard cultivating sugarcane, because that's what Mauritius was acquired by the British from the French, and before that from the Dutch. And it was a fertile volcanic island. It is a fertile volcanic island and has been used to cultivate sugar. So pretty much most of the sugar in the world is exported from the tiny island of Mauritius, and there's a huge monopoly on that because you know, because the British economy was able to transport it from very early on and proliferate the trade of sugarcane all throughout the world. So that was a confectionery, sugar itself, alcohol. It came from Mauritius, and so our country grew. The economy grew. We're now one of the strongest economies in Africa, but we do have probably one of the highest rates of alcoholism in the world, I think, certainly in Africa. You know, we have chronic diabetes. We have the highest rate of diabetes in Africa. We're an African island. And my experience over the past few years and really tuning into what's going on in Mauritius, I can feel within people, within families, within communities, this deep trauma is really, really present. We have a lot of fractured families. It's very common to have very fractured families, to have family members that haven't spoken to each other for really long periods of time. It's very characteristic. But on the surface, when you go to this beautiful island, you see this incredible heart connection of people, from their heart to your heart, this hospitality, this love that they have. And so we're very much, as a people, very much caught between the connection we do have from our heart as coming from an indigenous population of Indians from the Indian subcontinent, of having that lineage, of being very connected to our heart, but also on the other hand feeling this incredible trauma. And I've started to unpick that, and I used to think it was very structural. It was about the economy, it was about the British Empire, it was about, you know, imperialism, colonialism, all this stuff, and you know, it has its roots there, of course. But for me, there's a fundamental underlying factor with all of this, which I'm starting to learn and understand now. So going back to my uncle, he was really sick in hospital, and during my IFS training, a lot of this stuff was coming up, and I was feeling this grief, feeling this sadness, and I was helping him in an energetic way to clear a lot of his trauma and clear a lot of his pain and his grief, so that he could pass on. And he passed on a couple of days after I got that news that he was unwell in hospital. And from that period onwards, I had been doing a lot of quite spiritual, energetic work to release trauma. And I knew at that point, in doing my IFS training, when it came up in a practice session, that I have contracted up, my soul has contracted up to play a role in releasing this trauma for the island, for the people of Mauritius, because I've been able to grow myself energetically, spiritually, physically, to a point where I'm strong enough to do that, and I can hold that space, and I understand I can do that without any judgment of who did what and from where did this come from and this, that, and the other. But I have that contextual understanding, which helps me to be able to do the work. And you know, I've been doing work on this side as well in the UK, with my sister Vicky and other sisters and brothers. We do a whole lot of work around decolonization. We've been doing that over the past couple of years, where we have been unraveling, we've been decoding, decolonizing from the time of colonialism. We've been understanding the archetypes, the roles that we've taken on as a result of colonization, you know, as a result of the trauma, the insecurity, the lack, the disconnection to the land, as a result of all of that stuff that we have been conditioned, we have, by our trauma, by experience, and we have gotten to a place where we now martyr ourselves, you know, we become the ones to take the trauma forward. We become the ones to have to work hard, to survive, to earn money, to grow successful business, to be successful in our work. All of these things are in some way, some small or big way, a result of this experience that we've had, this insecurity that we had felt, that has moved down the ancestral line. And now today, even though I've lived a very privileged life and I've been given everything that I've ever needed by my parents, who worked so hard to give that to me, I still felt like I needed to survive growing up. I still felt, more in my teens and my 20s, I still felt this like survival, like I just need to do well, I need to succeed, I need to achieve, I need to be the best that I can be, I need to heal people, no one else can do it. I've taken on this responsibility and I've martyred myself in the process, becoming very unwell. But it's okay, because I've healed from that, and I have rewired all of that. So in the last couple of weeks, I have very close family members of mine have become very down, very unwell. I have family members who have like unexplained pain, undiagnosed chronic illness, pain, you know, joint pain, muscle pain, digestive issues, mental health, emotional issues. And I've been, where is this coming from? And I've known deep in my heart that this is coming from this trauma that sits inside all of us, that fundamentally that manifests in a physical way, because the physical body is trying to tell us, you know, like it's showing us signs and symptoms, like I'm in pain, I am holding all of this stuff and it needs to come out. And if it doesn't come out, it's going to manifest in this chronic way. It's going to keep doing that until we listen to it, until we hear it, until we take it on board, until we release it and do something about it, you know, because the biochemistry of the body is like the end manifestation of the spiritual and the emotional stuff that's riding along underneath it. So I've been going through that whole process. I've been digesting a lot of this energy and pain and suffering from the ancestral line and from my family, from my friends, from myself. And I had a tooth cave in about a week and a half ago, and the dentist was really really baffled because I have no signs of tooth decay. I don't have sugar in my diet. For those of you that know me, I lead pretty much a you know, a plant-based diet, and no sugar. I don't drink alcohol. And the dentist, he says that you've got really healthy gums, no sign of tooth decay anywhere else. You must just have a really weak tooth. And I looked into the tooth, and the tooth was connected to the meridian lines, the energy lines of the large intestine, and the lungs. Now, the lungs hold grief, and the large intestines digest not just food, but digest this heavy energy. When we're digesting our traumatic burdens, we're digesting dense energy, stagnant energy. We're doing it from that core, and the large intestine plays a really big role in that. And I had my large intestine surgically removed when I was 18 because I had ulcerative colitis, which completely ate away my large intestine, and I had to have it surgically removed. So I don't have that physical organ now, but energetically it's still doing the work. And so it's no wonder that the tooth took the brunt of all of this digesting. That's really, really interesting. And now, today, what I've woken up and what I've realized is that this deep sadness and this deep pain and these feelings that I've had recently of lack of love, of lack of support and appreciation, that I've been projecting onto my husband mainly, that comes from the feelings that my ancestors had when they left India and they made that decision to leave their family, leave their land behind. They did detach from that stuff. They detached from it, you know, because they knew they were going to go and progress their life and progress their family by going to a place where they would have opportunities to grow their abundance. And then when they went to Mauritius and they were almost pretty much enslaved, you know, in indentured labor, which is what they were, it was a type of migration which was in a way forced, because it was taking very vulnerable people who were very poor, telling them that they would work for 5 hours and they would get all this amazing stuff, and coercing them into going to work somewhere for very little money. In actual fact, many people didn't earn money for many, many, many years, because they were paying off their boat fare and they were paying off their accommodation and all this stuff. And these ancestors, they came to an island where slavery, because slavery had just been abolished, which is why they created this new system of indentured labor. And my Indian ancestors came to the land and they worked hard in the sugarcane fields, and they suffered. And we don't really talk about this suffering a lot because it was so painful, but they suffered. And they were sad and they were grieving, and this has been passed down. And I understand now that this sadness and this grief, it comes from the feelings of betrayal. That fundamentally, that we as a people, we feel betrayed because we were used and we were abused. And we witnessed the African slaves who had been there before us, who had been even more used and even more abused. And working for generations and generations, for hundreds of years, until we could live a decent life and could be educated in a decent way and could be abundant. It was years, it's hundreds of years. And this sadness and this grief of this betrayal is now what we sit with. And what I realize that it isn't, I've been gifted with this life to experience this as a Mauritian person, but actually this is a common experience that we have as humans all over the world. That this micro relates to the macro. That we have all been betrayed. We betray each other. We've been betrayed by structural forces. We've been betrayed by forces that we can't know. But most importantly, we have betrayed each other, because it's humans that have done this to humans. And it doesn't matter how they were influenced or coerced into doing this, we still betrayed each other. The betrayal started somewhere, and then it just kept going back and forth, because the victims, the ones that were betrayed, then become the perpetrators. They become the ones to betray others, because that's all we know. And we carry that deep sadness and that deep grief and that anger, and so that comes out, and we then betray other people. And it continues, and it continues in this cycle. So fast forward 300 years, this is where we are today. And we're at a point on planet Earth where it's like, we need to see this for what it really is. A fundamental betrayal. Because as humans, we have this incredible capacity to love unconditionally, but also to create so much suffering and pain. But we have this capacity to love unconditionally. We have this, no matter how closed down you are, or how much of a shit life you had, or stress you experience, or whatever is going on in your life, you still have this deep, 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 deep ability to connect to the unconditional love in your heart. And when you do, on some level, whether it's conscious or not, you can feel this betrayal. We can feel this betrayal. And that for me, I feel, is where this deep sadness comes from. It's where this grief and sadness comes from. It's from this feeling of betrayal, that we've betrayed each other, and we've betrayed ourselves in the process. And this isn't about color or race, black or white, you know, indigenous, non-indigenous, you know, because if you're white and this is touching something within you, it's because you too have been betrayed. Yeah, the guys outside are playing football right in front of me in the middle of the street. They've parked their really flashy white car. They're reminding me, and I know I'm not sitting with this all day, it's my birthday. I'm gonna go out now, and I'm gonna have a really beautiful day with my husband. And this is a part of me releasing this. It's a part of this journey, and I want to share it, and I want you to share it if you feel in your heart that this touches you, this relates to you, can resonate with this, then please share it. Please. We need to get this message out. We need to mend the relationship that we have with our heart, to be able to transform this grief and this sadness, and detach from these feelings of betrayal, and know that much of it's not ours. It's coming down, and that which is ours is our gift to transform, to release, so that we can step into our full power as human beings. I really believe that I have been born into this lifetime, that I have been sent from the future to help to do this work at this crucial time, because it's crunch time now. We have got to change the timelines. We have to change the trajectory of this planet. Our mother, the planet, needs us to understand what we are as human beings and what we carry, and the power that we have to release this for everybody, and not carry this to our deathbed, not carry this into the next life, not pass it down to our children, our babies who have come here to help the next generation, but we are reconditioning them. We are passing on our trauma to them. again and again and again, and they can't do their job effectively. They're still doing their job. Amazing job. So thank you so much if you've listened to this. I send you all my love and blessings, and I hope that you can receive this with an open heart and find it in yourself to forgive the betrayal and love fully from your heart.